Hello viewers, the latest time trial on Gran Turismo 7 is the 24 Hours of Le Mans, so I'm going to jump in and see how well I can do. So let's hop in to our very first lap of the entire time trial and witness probably some bad driving. Now Le Mans, I'm fairly well coursed in this circuit, driven it many laps, but in this specific car, I can't really remember the last time. And therefore, judging my braking points, gears, etc., quite tricky, as you can tell already at the Dunlop chicane, overcooking it on the brakes. Now this is a fairly interesting time trial because Group 1 is very varied as a class. You of course have these Group C cars from the 80s and also modern LMP1 cars. Now you can get a gold medal with pretty much any of these types of cars, but at the moment the Sauber C9 seeming to be a very popular choice. So we've done the first sector, down to the first chicane, braking very early, a bit too early I would have thought. Given my scare at the Dunlop chicane, I kind of went a bit easy, and let's see what we can do into Mulsanne. Actually, I got this one pretty nice for a first lap, where I'm not really exactly sure where I'm braking. That wasn't too bad actually, 158 at that split. And then into the Porsche curves at the end of the lap, the fast, twisty sector to round off the Le Mans lap. Carrying a lot of speed through here. This is about commitment and bravery through this section. And then precision on the exit of this corner especially. We don't want to go beyond the track limit. And then the four chicanes. Always tricky to get dead right. I do carry a bit too much speed, get a poor line. And as we come up to the line, it's going to be a 3-minute 27.8. Ooh, okay, 3:27.8. Quite a lot of mistakes, and perhaps predictably not good enough for a gold, but that won't be too hard to achieve. I think if I just tidy up a couple of mistakes, I could easily get that 3:25. Just got to shave off a few seconds. So I already know where I made these mistakes. This one into the Dunlop curve was quite a big one. This would easily have cost me a second at least. And so you can see here, taking a much tidier line, braking a bit early, and just getting the exit, which is really important in this kind of car. There's so much power. If you can get on the power just a slight bit earlier, you really do get a lot of time gained on the way out of the turn. Into Tertre Rouge, always a difficult corner, this one to judge dead right. A little bit conservative, actually, that was quite close to the edge actually. And then into the first chicane, braking later on my first lap. Just, it's a case of remembering what you did wrong. And in my case, it was quite a lot wrong. And into the second chicane, I realised that my gearing was incorrect. So coming out of here in third gear seemed to be the much better choice, as you get a much bigger amount of traction. I think using third gear out of some of these corners is a lot better. It's a lot more stable. You can get on the power much earlier. And that's going to be crucial really to setting a good lap time. In an old car like this, the gear choice is very important. The gears are quite clunky, quite slow, and so you don't want to be doing unnecessary gear changes or gear changes at the wrong time. So into Indianapolis, always a tricky corner this one. And then towards Arnage, very slow turn, very easy to overcook it on the brakes, as we have done a little bit there, not too bad, carried a decent amount of speed. And as we head into the four chicanes, this is always such a tricky section to get dead right. Two very fast chicanes or medium speed chicanes in consecutive order. Got to use a lot of curb, maximise the track limits. But ultimately I did come through. This was going to be an improvement down to a 3:23. So that's 4 seconds gained. Ooh, okay. 23-1. Boom. 221st in the world. Gold medal. 1.78% off the world record. So a couple of aims with this, right? You can see in the top right corner, it's just gone midnight. I'm going to give myself 24 hours to try to set a good time for this. I'm also going to try and get top 100 and within 1.5% of the top time. As ever, it's always good to learn from the best, so we're going to take this replay, see what we can learn. So we're looking for shifting points, braking points, gear choices. It's actually got counter steer assist on. Interesting. Second gear, first gear. So used a bit of second gear there to rotate the car, but coming away in third gear So yeah, I wasn't doing that. I wasn't going down a gear to rotate the car. I need to do that a bit more. 4th gear on the exit. I used 3rd on there. Yeah, you really have to get on those track limits. 3rd gear out of the chicane. I was using 2nd. It seems like 3rd gear is just much more stable on the exit. I did use 3rd for the next chicane though, and he brakes a lot later. You can really go all over these curbs. 3rd gear on the exit. 129.9 at the end of that split. Let's see where he brakes. Pretty much at the start of this curb on the right, I'm guessing. Yep. Down to 1st. Yeah, she comes out in 2nd. Definitely a tighter corner, so you can't really come out of there in 3rd. Now this is where I can definitely gain time in this left-hander. Third gear on the exit. And I went wide on my lap here. And then through the Porsche curves, it's really just about maximising the track limit, carrying speed, and being committed. This left-hander, I think, I could have gained more time on the exit. Take a bit more curb. You can run a bit wider onto the exit there. And then these chicanes at the end, the full chicanes, honestly, there's so much time in these if you get the line dead right. Use the pit lane for a wider line in. Third gear on the exit. So you can see that you have to get very comfortable with the car being slightly sideways at points, but that was a very good lap. Okay, with this newfound knowledge, let's chip away a couple more tenths at least. That was the plan, but it wasn't about to go to that plan. Now, sometimes, you know, watching the replays, well, I say sometimes, normally it's always a good thing to do, to arm yourself with as much information as possible about how to go quickly. However, on this occasion, it tended to not work out for me, as I think I was overdriving. So my first lap on this session was a 3:23.2, which is only 1/10 slower than my PB. But as you can see here, I was clearly quicker, and I knew that I could go into the 3:22s if I was able to just complete a lap. And by this point in the lap, this is my second lap of this little mini session, I was 8/10 up on the go. So this could be a very low 3:22. Bit wide there on the exit, and that is going to hand me a penalty. Very frustrating, and that is the difficulty with this time trial, because Le Mans is a very long lap and it is very sketchy with the track limits, and in order to get a quick lap you really do have to run those limits as close as you possibly can. So that was deeply frustrating, and of course getting that penalty so late in the lap means that it affects the subsequent lap. However, I was able to do that exact same thing again by getting a penalty right at the end of the lap on this occasion, on the last apex, again affecting the next lap. And I mean, this lap I was overdriving by this point, driving way too hard and getting another penalty here. The track limits on the exit of that first chicane are kind of strange in points, and so I was able to go quicker in a sense. I knew the potential was there, but I wasn't able to do it cleanly enough. That was the main issue with this mini session. It was quite late. It was like just gone midnight. And so too many mistakes, and I felt like I would have to come back in the morning to do a better job. Too many mistakes. A 3:21.4 possible on the optimum. It is nearly 1 in the morning. Let's go to sleep and then pick this up afterwards. Okay, we're back. Day 2. Let's get this done. These track limits are going to be a problem. And as I mentioned, yeah, this time trial, it really came down to a delicate balance between pushing hard but not overstepping the mark with the track limits. The stewards were very hot on this one. Stewards on every corner, watching your every move, as always seems to be the way around Le Mans. They never give you an inch. You go over the line by even so much as a pixel, you will be penalised. And so this makes for a very difficult challenge. I knew I could go quicker. A 3:23.1 was a good lap. It was a gold by a few seconds, but there was clear potential for a 3:22, if not a 3:21, given my optimum in my previous session the day before. So on this lap, where are we? We are a few tenths up, just trying to take a better line through the chicane, not get a penalty on the exit. And you can see here, already ahead of the Ghost. Now I set my Ghost to be 0.5 seconds ahead at the start of the lap, and therefore if I catch up and overtake it, I'm, well, 0.5 or more ahead of the Ghost. You see here, making a mess of the Mulsanne corner, does the Ghost, and therefore I'm going to be over 1 second ahead in the distance now as we head towards Indianapolis. So 1.2 actually, the margin. So as we came into the Porsche curves, 1.3 seconds up. Therefore this could be a 322. So we are comparing that to a 324, by the way. The 324 was the first lap I did of this session, so of course the Ghost resets to that. It would be good to have, like on GT Sport, you had the car best record on your bottom right. On this game you can only do session best. However, into the final couple of chicanes here, I do lose a few tenths, down to 0.8 the margin, but I do manage to go through that sequence quite cleanly, get a good exit, and therefore get a 322.7. So that is the new watermark. We have improved by about 4 tenths compared to our previous best there, so that's good. We are making progress, slowly chipping away on that lap time. But having said that, I know that there are still more improvements to come. And on this lap, getting a fairly iffy exit from the Dunlop chicane, but keeping within a tenth of the Ghost. Into Turret Rouge, can we get a good exit through here? They really have to run the limits right on the edge, and unfortunately for me, I went that infamous 1 pixel beyond, and the Turret Rouge Marshal was not having any of it. A 0.5 second penalty, it's going to affect the lap. Now this was really interesting. This is quite a big moment in a time trial for me at least, where this lap is clearly going to be slow, right? Because I just had to serve that penalty. I'm 0.8 nearly seconds down, or 0.7 seconds down on the Ghost as I come into the final sequence of corners. But it's still worth continuing the lap to see what the potential lap time can be. It's unlikely I'm going to catch up 0.8 seconds. However, the Ghost did take a poor line through these couple of corners here. So suddenly, I'm only 0.4 seconds down on the Ghost coming into the last 2 chicanes. So let's see what improvement I can make. So this is almost like a free hit. I can just take the risk here and not really care if I lose it or not. And as we come through, I actually took it really well. And that's going to be a 322.7. So I gained 8 tenths in that final sector alone. 8 tenths in one sector. So I know I can go 8 tenths quicker than a 322.7. I could get a 321.9 at that rate. Not like this though, not if I smash it into barrier. Pushing a little bit too hard there, overdriving. But once I got my rhythm back once again, on the 5th lap of this little session, I was doing a good job of keeping with the Ghost. So in many ways, I didn't necessarily have to beat the Ghost. I had to beat the Ghost, but I didn't have to get ahead of it during the lap. I knew that I could just stay with it for the majority of the lap, and then once we get to the final sector, well, if I just bang out that 8 tenths improvement again, then I should be able to beat it. So that's always something I'm bearing in mind. Which sectors did I get right on my Ghost lap, and which ones did I get wrong? In this instance, the Ghost isn't too quick for this final sequence, so I know I should be able to beat it. Here, I'm only half a tenth down. And can we beat it? This is the question. If I take this nice and clean, then I should be able to get well into the 322s, perhaps a 321. And as you can see there, the Ghost going really wide, losing a couple of tenths. Again, wide. You can't quite carry the speed. You do not get the exit either. And so I'm now 4 tenths up. Can we get this final sequence correct? This is always so tricky to get dead right. You really do have to commit and be brave with the track limits. And we get a nice bounce off that red curb. And it's going to be a 7/10th improvement. 322.0. Very happy with that indeed. And at the moment, the optimum is showing a 321.1 should I get every sector correct. However, on this next lap, pushing a little bit too hard once again, getting another penalty, and I think by this point I was just beginning to once again overdrive. Right, I'm beginning to drive like crap now, so let's just see what that leaderboard position is. 71st in the world, 1.24%. 71st in the world, I'm happy with that, but I know I can go quicker. Something into the 321s is definitely doable, so we can improve still. So I jumped back in on that quest for the 321. Once again, it was a case of overdriving, pushing too hard, trying too hard, not getting into a rhythm. And as you can see, many mistakes. Even this one, before we even got to the start line, I made a stupid mistake. Now, the issue I think with Le Mans is that because it's quite a long lap, you know, if you get a penalty, it's so long to restart and get onto the next lap. And sometimes, you know, if you get a penalty right at the end of a lap, it ruins your next lap. So it's hard to get into a rhythm around here, I think. With a shorter lap, I think it's much easier to do. You can churn out more laps. Now here, went a bit wide. I was fairly level pegging with the Ghost coming into the final couple of corners. However, it's not going to count on this occasion. So you can see a bit of a rage quit there. We go again on this attempt. Again, very close to the Ghost coming into the Porsche curves. If anything, I've gained maybe 0.2 on the Ghost. So this could be a 321 if I just equal the Ghost lap. Can we do it? Getting a decent enough line through that right-hander into the left. Let's try to be a bit more conservative and not run wide. Still right on the back of the Ghost. And probably about 0.4 up on the Ghost. So this could be a mid 321. Going through the final couple of corners. This last chicane is, I hate it. Especially there. Do not get a good bounce off of that chicane at all. And as you can see, the Ghost gets a massive margin. It's going to be a 322.1. That's very disappointing, because that could have been a mid 21, and I lose maybe even half a second. I probably lost there on that final chicane. So easy to do, and it's really frustrating with this lap that one of the hardest corners to get dead right is the final corner. So you've got to drive 3.5 minutes without getting a penalty to come up to the final boss, and then it can kill you very, very easily. Let's take a look at this lap. Good sequence through the Dunlop chicane into this one, coming off the brake as early as you can, getting back onto the power, committing close to those bollards on the inside to really maximise the speed carried through that right-hander. Through the right-hander of Turret Rouge, right on the limits of the curb, back onto the track before the curb ends. It's a 30.1 through the first split. That was the fastest I've done to this point. Into the second chicane, the first chicane, getting a much better line compared to the Ghost, and driving away quite clearly. 103.4 through that split, ahead of the Ghost. So I'm probably about 0.6 up now, maybe 7. How about through here? Again, running the curb into third gear, back on the power. That was a decent line. 130.9 through that split. Into Mulsanne, getting on the brakes, off the brake, a little bit deep. Can't quite get on the power as early as I'd like, therefore, on the exit. But still not too bad. The Ghost still behind, maybe 0.6 in front at this point in the lap. Into Indianapolis, tipping it in, back into third gear, on the power, running wide. Could be a penalty, but fortunately for me it isn't. Extending the track on the entry to Arnage, giving yourself a better angle to accelerate on the way out. And no penalty. Driving slightly away from the Ghost. Into the Porsche curves. Can we bring this one home? We are ahead. I mean, I've got maybe half a second here to play with, but of course we want to set the fastest lap possible. I don't really want to be too conservative. A bit too wide there. That was not a good line. It's going to compromise the entry into the left. And as you can see, the Ghost does definitely catch up. Maybe a couple of tenths lost through those couple of corners. But here we go then. The second to last boss. Then the final boss. Can we get it right? Get a good bounce over that curb? Not the best, but it is finally going to be a 3 minute 21 lap time. 51st in the world at that time, just behind Supra and GT. And being just behind Supra GT was no mean feat. That was a pretty good lap. 321.8, 51st in the world. However, as you can see, once again, started to overdrive, try a bit too hard. Many mistakes, many mistakes, especially through the first chicane here, the Dunlop chicane. Just kept getting the entry line wrong, getting penalties, not getting the exit, pushing way too hard on the brakes, until eventually we arrive at the fabled lap. Let's take a look, shall we? Through the final chicane. Set yourself up nicely for a good run onto your lap. Once again, the Ghost is set to 0.5 in front. And so if we get level with the Ghost, we're half a second up. That would be a 3:21.3, which would be a good lap time. Close to my potential. On the optimum, I've been seeing low 3-minute 21s, 3:21.1 and 3:21.2. I know that that is possible. 3:20? Maybe. We'll see. But a low 3:21 is the sort of benchmark here. 30.1 through the first split. That is good by my standards. I think the top times in the world are doing 29.9s or 0.8s. But 30.1, that's good for me. That seemed to be about a 1 in 5 event, or maybe even like a 1 in 7 event. So we've got that hurdle done and dusted. Let's try and get the next hurdle done. And around the Le Mans lap, you do have a lot of time to think about the upcoming corner. Sometimes a bit too much time. And so coming up to chicane number 2 on the back straight, on the Mulsanne here, looking for the 100 board on the right hand side just as you approach the turn. There's a little sign about 10 feet up in the air. You can see one there, that's the 300. There's the 100. Over the curb, you can be more than 2 wheels over those curbs. Got to watch out for the track limits on the exit. Exiting in 3rd gear, that was a good line. 130.8, that's the fastest I've seen personally at that point of the circuit. Then down towards Mulsanne, looking forward, looking to the right to that curb, braking just at the beginning of it, maybe a metre or 2 after. Off the brake, onto the power gently, and then fully. This car will slide out if you really try and hammer the power while still steering. It really doesn't like it. It's very easy to spin this car. So you do want to be on full power in a straight line ideally. Still behind the Ghost, but definitely gaining slightly. This braking point is quite tricky. You're braking pretty much on the apex of this right, and then carrying the brakes in, trail braking up to 3rd gear to give yourself a better exit. Again, still quite close to the Ghost. Braking nice and early for this one. Off the brake, let it roll. That was a bit too fast on the way in, I would say. And consequently, you can see the Ghost is going to pull away. So that was a good couple of tenths lost there, I would say. Maybe at least a tenth in that corner. However, we're still on for a good lap here. Let's continue and see what we can do. And this one's very tricky. You do have to commit quite blind. It's hard to judge that one. This one really committing, being brave, keeping the power on, and then keeping it nice and narrow here before swinging to the left over the curb, being as brave as you can be on the power without running wide. I'm level with the Ghost. I'm half a second up. Let's try and bring this one home. The second to last boss, and we've killed him with ease. How about the final boss? Can we do it? It looks like we can. Getting a nice exit. It's going to be a banger of a lap, guys. And just look at the relief. I was happy with that. Get in there, Lewis. Yes. What a lap. 23rd in the world. 23rd in the world. I am happy with that. And I made mistakes on that lap. That puts me 0.81% off the top time. And I've more than smashed my aims. I wanted a top 100 and within 1.5%. This was a good time trial. So there we go, guys. I gave myself 24 hours. I only needed actually 21 hours to get that time. And I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it. Well, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.